All right, Super Bowl bets coming in the near future. Thank you very much, John and Jackie. I'm Martha McCallum, and this is the story on Wednesday afternoon. Feels like a very busy week already, right? So we are watching on that screen, as you can see on the left, waiting for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who will meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the Pentagon after President Trump said that the U.S. should, quote, take over Gaza, and did not completely rule out the possibility of American forces helping on the ground there in a rebuilding process. Watch this exchange just a few moments ago in the White House press briefing. Here we go.
Should the American people be prepared to see U.S. military on the ground fighting a ground war against Hamas?
Again, the president has not committed to U.S. troops in the region.
But it is an option.
I have said that the president has not committed to that yet.
Okay, so we are waiting to hear directly from President Trump this hour. We expect it to be similar to what we've seen in recent days, the signing of executive orders in the Oval Office, and then most likely some question and answer with members of the press in there. And yesterday's meeting with Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, raising a lot of questions about what this might look like. And he's also getting a lot of credit for shaking up some old ideas and proposing some new ones with regard to finding new solutions in the Middle East. So we're going to take you there to the White House as soon as that gets underway. So some Democrats have been outraged by this idea. And from the usual corners, we are hearing some new talk of the I word, impeachment. Watch this.
The movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done.
So that is Democrat Al Green. He has been talking about impeachment since the very beginning of the first Trump term. So let's go to the White House now, where we find Peter Doocy. It's been very active there, as you've had press conferences with the president pretty much every day, Peter. A lot of revisiting what was heard yesterday and a look ahead to today. What are you hearing?
Well, we are hearing that this is a serious proposal from President Trump that they are to take over Gaza, that they're describing as an out-of-the-box thought. But there are big questions that remain unanswered, including how is the U.S. going to own Gaza? Who do we buy it from? In the briefing room, we heard Caroline Leavitt talking about how right now Gaza is controlled by Iran-backed Hamas terrorists. And so they're obviously trying to create a public, get the public behind this idea that the Israelis and the rest of the Middle East would rather have the United States there with a big presence instead of Hamas terrorists who could be attacking anybody at any time. But the logistics of who do we cut a check to are a little bit more complicated than the already complicated idea of, say, trying to buy Greenland, Martha.
Yeah, we have heard suggestions that, or directly really, that Saudi Arabia doesn't want the Palestinians to be removed from the Gaza Strip. And we hear from Palestinians who say they don't want to leave. However, the point is not, is well taken, I should say, when you look at these images, Peter, of how destroyed the entire area and how unlivable it is. Obviously, it needs some sort of, small scale Marshall Plan to make it inhabitable and safe for people in that area.
And President Trump's suggestion that the United States could just take over Gaza comes after his team spent the whole day describing to us how it is basically impossible for anybody to safely return. When they talk about needing 10 or 15 years to go in there, that's not 10 or 15 years to go replace some broken glass and repave the streets. That is 10 to 15 years to go get unexploded munitions, to hook up basic utilities like water and power. What they are describing would probably take longer than 15 years. The 15 years might just be to clear the entire, what they describe as a demolition site here. So there are two things that are true. A very delicate ceasefire is still just hanging by a thread. President Trump says that he doesn't really know if it's going to hold up or not. And these people have nowhere to go. Going back to Gaza does not seem like a safe idea, even though that been the home for a lot of these refugees for their entire lives and for their families' entire lives. Entire family trees are rooted there. But they have to come up with somewhere else for these guys to go. And there have been various arguments from Middle Eastern partners about why they don't want some of these Palestinian refugees who might not have been vetted properly coming into their countries. There have been huge problems with that over since October 7th. But we are being directed to the King of Jordan's visit next week, when President Trump is saying that he has heard positive reviews from partners in the Middle East. They're telling us, well, King of Jordan's coming. Let's ask him next week, and we will.
Yeah, obviously Egypt and Jordan, both large recipients of U.S. aid, and it is a strong ally relationship with Jordan and really with Egypt over the many decades as well. So we'll see if maybe there's some sort of partnership that can be developed that would provide more stability in the region through this, sort of throw the chessboard up in the air suggestion. Peter, you have covered the Biden administration, obviously, for the last 4 years, and now the first weeks of the Trump administration. So we are finding it interesting to sort of compare similar moments and meetings. So here is a look at Biden with President Naftali. And then when we hit the other play button, you'll see a clip from President Trump with Benjamin Netanyahu just yesterday. Watch this.
For the Palestinian people, a credible pathway to a state of their own. And for the region, a future of normalization.
The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip.
So, obviously, very different takes, Peter.
And with Joe Biden, anytime there was a big international occurrence, they would make a point to say, okay, well, he's going to get on a virtual call with the rest of the G7 or the rest of the NATO leaders, and they're going to figure out what the best next step is. It was very, very bureaucratic, whereas Donald Trump is literally doing things backwards. He is thinking of the most unheard of idea and starting with that as a lead point in negotiations.
Well, sometimes a big idea is a shake-up moment. Peter, thank you so much